It just really sucks, doesn't it? When you've been in a relationship with somebody who's been avoidant and they've really struggled with conflict and then they just shut down and disappear. And then it feels like, did I even matter to this person at all? Because they don't seem to fight for you ever. And there is a reason why they don't fight for you. And in this video, we're going to talk about the reasons, because there's actually more than one reason why they don't fight for you, why this happens. And hopefully it'll make you feel better that actually this is not a sign that you meant nothing to this person. This is a sign of how they cope with their emotional world. Okay, so before I get into this video, I want to let you know that I've got a discount code on my new course, the Self-Abandonment Trap, which is freedom 350, all one word, freedom 350, and it will give you 20% off. And there are 6 spaces left right now. I would love to see you there. It's going to be an incredible 6 weeks where we're going to learn to come back to you so that you can feel strong, connected to yourself, knowing what you want, stating your own values, your own truth, and really be yourself in relationships so that you don't have that horrible anxiety when it comes to relationships, and you can actually see things for what they are rather than try to be at the whim of somebody else and feel that horrible sense of, are they going to stay? Are they going to go? Are they going to come back? It's horrible to be there, and it makes you feel powerless. The other person owns you when you're there. And I want you to feel more in control of your life and your relationships, and this is going to be a method to help you come back to you in a new way that isn't just staying up in your head, just analysing, just thinking about the avoidant, just ruminating at 3 a.m, looking at your text, wondering what you did wrong. We want to end that pattern. So if you want to come to the Self-Abandonment Trap, don't forget to use the discount code FREEDOM350. So when it comes to avoidance not fighting for you in a relationship, there's lots of reasons. And the first obvious reason is that they struggle with vulnerability. Now, if you think about how difficult it is for you to sit in a conversation where someone's saying, look, there's this thing that you did and it has affected me in this way. Can we talk about it? That's hard for anybody, but for an avoidant who didn't have that safety in disconnection growing up, and it led to more disconnection or shame or you being bad or wrong or you're going to be punished, then that feels like they've got nowhere to go. So for them to sit in that situation where they have to listen to something where they've impacted you in a negative way just feels like, I've got nowhere to go here. I don't know what to do with this apart from the thing that they learned to do, which is shut down and distance themselves. That's the only way they learned how to regulate, because there was no safety around those instances when they were growing up. Okay, so that says everything about their childhood, their upbringing, and how they learned to regulate, and nothing about how important you were to them. Okay, so this is hard for them as much as it is for you a lot of the time. They also think that relationships maybe for some reason need to be easy and that there shouldn't be conflict a lot of the time. So they often say things like, why are you making a big deal out of this? We don't need to talk about this all the time. Or why are you bringing this up again? Or you're too sensitive. Because they have learnt throughout their relationships, for whatever reason, maybe it was their parents, maybe they had a parent that really just really made it easy for everything that they did and never gave them any consequences, and they have had an enabling parent who let them off the hook with lots of things. So therefore relationships were easier for them, but actually they didn't actually learn the consequence of their own actions. That's one of the reasons that can happen a lot of the time. But sometimes it's just the sense of they don't want to be being perceived as bad or wrong because it reminds them of that sense of shame, and they want things to be easier, right? They've experienced easier relationships, but often they were not easier, they were just more enabling, right? So that's one of the things. And like I say, they carry this feeling of shame because of maybe things that were not addressed in their childhood, or because they were perceived as bad or wrong, and they didn't have, like I said before, that sense of safety around conflict. If conflict in their childhood was either brushed under the rug, things weren't addressed, they learned that that was something we don't do. Or the other instance is if they had conflict and it led to more unsafety, more disconnection, and that felt really unsafe, so they kept out of it, they distanced themselves, they pulled away. It all depends on their childhood, right? But for whatever reason, they learned that shutting down and pulling away and dismissing things meant that they stayed safe in their nervous system, and they didn't have to face that feeling of, I've done something wrong. That felt and feels too scary for them. So in order for them to actually overcome this, they have to get comfortable with that and have to have the safety of being able to know that they can be loved even if they mess up sometimes. We all mess up at times. Everybody fucks up, right? I do, you do, we all do things that are out of alignment with who we want to be, and that's okay, and it's human, it's just part of the human condition. But where they've been shamed for those mistakes in the past and not had consequences for certain things and then not overcome those challenges, they just learn to pull away instead of actually address them, which means that they don't tend to take responsibility for their actions or how they make people feel or how they make you feel, because that feels too scary. Again, this is all about how they feel about themselves and nothing to do with you, your worth, your value to them, or how they felt about you. But they really struggle with this aspect of relationships because it requires responsibility and vulnerability, two things that are very, very difficult just for anyone, really. It's hard, this, but when you've got safety around those things, it makes it easier. And as I said, they haven't experienced that. So the question is then, what do you do? And should you stay or should you go? I mean, the thing is that when you're in a relationship with somebody who's had this difficult, upbringing or this way of coping, they have to first, as a bare minimum, be able to see that pattern. If they can't see it, they will continually dismiss it and call you too sensitive, and you will feel not heard, not listened to, and that is not an emotionally safe environment for you to stay in. If, on the other hand, they know that they do this and they know it's been problematic in their life and they want to overcome it because they've experienced consequences from other failed relationships, they've lost other things, they've been through it already, then they know that they've got to do something different. But avoidants do what avoidants do, which is avoid. So if they're still in that era of their life where they're still avoiding things and still thinking that that's the mechanism for overcoming it, then that does not put the relationship in a good place, because they're still going to think that that's the way that you deal with things. I've been with an avoidant who absolutely thought talking about things was completely the problem. That made all the problems worse, but it only was problematic because of the way that he actually couldn't sit in that discomfort and couldn't listen. And whenever we were in a conversation like that, he would dismiss things, call me too sensitive, say that I was being, dramatic or too much, and all we both really wanted to be was heard. And it just took being able to say, you know what, I can see that has really impacted you, and be able to see two realities at once, right? Because the most emotionally intelligent people that are safest to be with are the ones who can see, I have this reality and you have this reality, and we both experience the same thing differently, and we both need to be able to see that both experiences are valid. And when one person can't do that and they think, no, this is the way that it is, this is my way or the highway, the other one feels completely neglected and unheard, and that is not a good place to stay. If this avoidant wants to go to therapy, that's like a bare minimum, right? They have to want to be able to do the work on themselves. They have to be interested in it for you to be able to start considering if this is a safe relationship to stay in. Then that's a start. They're not going to get it all right all the time. They're going to go back and forth. That's normal for a recovering avoidant or a recovering anxious attacher as well. Like, they have to want to do that. You also have to want to do this too. It's not just about them. You have to want to overcome your anxiety in relationships, because the two things will bounce off each other. So if they're doing all the work on themselves, which is less likely than the anxious person doing all the work on themselves, but let's say they go to therapy, they do all this stuff, they apologize, they take responsibility, but you're not doing anything on you, it will still be unbalanced. It will still not work. So both people have to want to work on themselves in order for the relationship to actually grow and thrive. And it really is a bare minimum standard that you should have. If someone has shown up in this way where you've been impacted by, someone discrediting your feelings, pushing your feelings aside, dismissing them, not following up, all of these things, that has got to be addressed, because it won't make you feel ever like your feelings matter, that your feelings are valid. And I want you to have a relationship where it's obvious that your feelings matter matter. It's obvious that we're going to impact each other, and that's okay. It's obvious that we're going to mess up. You're going to mess up. I'm going to mess up. Everybody's going to mess up at times. And that to be safe to do that at points in your relationship. There's going to be periods of disconnection. There's going to be periods of connection. You're not always going to 100% of the time be okay. But actually it's about the repair more than it is about the arguments and things like that. The real test of a good relationship is, can you repair? If you can't repair, you've got nowhere to go except downhill, okay? So if they're willing to start repairing things and working on themselves, and you're willing to work on yourself, then that can work. And in order for you to know what to do, you first have to know what you need within yourself. And that is where a lot of people struggle, because they're still at the whim of the avoidant doing this or not doing it, or what they're going to do and how they're going to behave, and then I'll know. You know, you have to know what you need and know what you want in order for you to be able to communicate it. And this is where a lot of people just don't, because they haven't addressed those things within themselves. So that's what I want for you to learn to do, and that is why I've created the self-abandonment trap course, for you to really get connected to you so that you can communicate things clearly, have clear boundaries, and be able to state them confidently. And knowing that if somebody doesn't show up in a way that you need, it says a lot about where they're at, and not anything about your worth, your value, the connection, or anything to do with that, and more about a misalignment with where you and this person is at this point. And it also doesn't say anything about the future either. It just says, this is where we are right now, this is what I need, and I know that this won't work or this will work. And it's just being able to know who you are and what you want, so that you don't have to live in this constant state of limbo and anxiety and powerlessness when it comes to relationships. So I hope you found this video useful. If you'd like any more information about what I do, you can find out more in the links below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.